B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'nasliach. Welcome everyone to our weekly shiur on the Zera Shimshon. Before we go further, the shiur is dedicated and sponsored by George and Sohela Haruni in honor of their wonderful, beautiful children, Michael, Elliot, and Sabrina. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. They've been, Baruch Hashem, they've been following the shiur all the way from Las Vegas for, I think, from the beginning. So Chazak Baruch, they watch it, they share it. Very proud of them, the whole family. Chazak Baruch, thank you so much for sponsoring us and helping us go on. May you see much nachat from all of your children and shefa bracha v'atzlacha b'chol ma'as yadechem. Amen keni ratzon. Also, may the zechut of the Zera Shimshon, Rav Shimshon Chaim ben Nachman Michael, be a melitz yosher for Kol Am Yisrael, bring Yeshuot v'nechamot for all of us, bring the hostages home safely, safeguard Am Yisrael all over the world, and for those that are single, send them their zivug hagun bekarov uvzmano, and those that want children, Hashem should give them zera kayama, amen keni ratzon. It should be a refuah shelema for Kol Chole Am Yisrael, especially. Okay, so before we go on, I have to make a clarification. I've been asked to clarify something, and I actually do need to clarify this because it could seem like I was saying one thing, but I wasn't. So I need to clarify this for those that watch at home as well. A few weeks back, we had a shiur about the role of a woman. If you guys remember, the shiur I think was called the level of the woman or the value of women in Judaism. And when we spoke about it, we brought several different places in halakha that we spoke about. The Zera Shimshon brings that when you get married, when you're trying to get married and you're trying to marry a woman, a girl that comes from a certain level family, certain prestigious family, let's say, that is used to certain lifestyle, from a certain lifestyle, you cannot expect that woman to decide to live on a lesser lifestyle. So if she decides, no, I don't want it, she can actually say, no, she doesn't want it. She doesn't want to live a simpler lifestyle because that's what she's used to, and she's allowed to say that. So some people felt, chas v'shalom, what I meant was that if you're married and the lifestyle changes, the lady could be like, you know what, I'm out. I didn't sign up for this. And I was clear at the end. I spoke, the whole point of me saying those things was the end of the shiur when I spoke about how important it is to understand what life is all about, what marriage is all about. It's about partnership. It's about shalom, having this partnership together where you build a life through thick and thin. And how I spoke about then, about how many people today, unfortunately, don't see that anymore. The hardships that our parents went through, the things that they went through. Many of them didn't even date. They were set up and they said, you're marrying this guy. And that was it. And they lived, Baruch Hashem, happily ever after with the greatest, sometimes with the greatest hardships. And they had shalom bayit, they had wonderful kids. They did it because they went through it. They lived through it. They sometimes went through a lot of hardships, but they didn't just throw in the towel. And that's the way it's supposed to be. So what I meant to say was, al pi halacha, if a person's dating a girl, not married yet, right? And the girl comes from a certain level that she is used to, he cannot expect her to decide to live in a lesser of a, what's the word? Standard of living. Thank you very much. Right? He can't have to expect. The girl could very well decide on her own that I'm willing, and that's what wonderful. That's what the Eshet Chayil does. Eshet Chayil says, "This is my husband, and that's what I'll do, no matter what." Right? That's what I meant. When you're dating, you can't say, "Oh, how could you?" She has the right to say. Is it the right thing to do? I don't know. Each person has to ask their own Rav. Halachically, what the Zera Shimshon was bringing was halachically, she's allowed to say, listen, this is the type of life I'm used to, and this is it, right? But really, what makes a woman an Eshet Chayil? It's a woman that doesn't see life as this physical life of, I need to have this kind of standards, I need to have this kind of a car to be able to live, and this kind of a house. That's not what the Torah looks at. So unfortunately, some people, many times it happens. Person is living a certain way. He marries a certain wife, and they're, they have a standard of living, what their car looks like, their homes look like. Sometimes, lo alenu, things change. There's ups and downs in life, right? Chas v'shalom, for any of the partners in this life to turn around and be like, you know what? Now that things are getting a little difficult, I don't think we could. Then obviously you were not in it for the long run. Obviously, there is something missing here. If a person in that type of a marriage feels that because now things got a little difficult, they no longer can do it. Obviously, I'm talking about when no one can help the situation. If a husband, chas v'shalom, decides to just not support their wife, that's something to really talk about. Chalila v'chas. But I'm talking about something that, and it's a situation that no one can help. It happened. The guy's stocks went down, chas v'shalom. What is he supposed to do? A real eshet chayil is the wife that says through thick and thin, I'm here. I didn't marry you for your money. I didn't marry you for the standard of living. I married you because of you. Which is what 99.9% of Am Yisrael's women, that's what they do. That's what our moms are like, Baruch Hashem. That's what the wives are like. I spoke about this quite a few times. This is not my first time. One time when I spoke about this, a guy literally afterwards with tears in his eyes came up to me and said, Rabbi, he told me that a few years back, he was having a very difficult time. And his business went down and he was borrowing money and he wasn't able to pay back. His wife comes to him with all of her jewelry and says, let's go. She wanted to sell all of her jewelry to pay the bills. And he's like, I said, what are you crazy? What are you talking about? She's like, what do you mean? What do I need jewelry? I want a husband. I want a husband that is healthy, that doesn't have stress. What's jewelry good for? And she's like, Rabbi, when you were talking, I was thinking about my wife. I said, Baruch Hashem, Yaman Eshet Chayil. That's what a wife is. That's what Ezer Kenegdo is. A wife that really through thick and thin is not thinking about, oh, look at the car I'm driving now. No, she's thinking about how do we keep going? How do we survive and how do we thrive? And you should know, in that kind of a situation, all the brachot min hashamayim come through that. All the bracha of parnasa comes from the wife. Chazal tell us, the wife brings the bracha into the home. When does that truly happen? When the wife decides to say, yes, wives are allowed to like jewelry, they're allowed to have like good things. That's what wives are, that's why they like the big weddings and stuff like that. But when it comes to really what's needed, they snap into it. And they go, you know what? Yeah, I like these things. Now they might not be available. Right now, I need to go into full throttle. Pull my husband out of the gutter and bring him to the place that I feel I want him to be or he needs to be. That's an Eshet Chayil. That's truly an Eshet Chayil. And when she does that, when she jumps into that role, so to speak, that's when the brachot min hashamayim come. The bracha comes from the wife. Not that when we sit back and go, I'm needy, gimme. No, what can I bring? How can I pull my husband up? How can I make him better? And that's spiritually, physically, whether it's parnasa, whatever it is, the shefa comes from the wife. So I hope that we're clear on that. That chas v'shalom, what we spoke about a few weeks ago, did not mean that as soon as a wife sees that things are not going, chas v'shalom, that's not, people can do whatever they want. I'm saying, but that's not something that halakha is going to say, good for you, things didn't go too well, just pull out and go find another rich husband. That's not what the Torah, not a chance. Not at all. That's not what Judaism is all about. I hope that is clear, and we pray. This is the chut of the Torah that we learn. We pray that all of the couples of Am Yisrael should have shalom bayit, should be able to live together with nachat, beshalva, beshalom for 120. Amen ken iratzon. Okay. So, we're coming on to Bezrat Hashem Chag Pessah. And I really wanted to do something nice for the Seder table for all of us to have something beautiful to say for the Seder. It's incredible how Kadosh Baruch Hu, if you guys didn't know, God runs the world. I'm just letting you know. Just by chance that you forgot, or any of us forgot, He's still doing it. It's crazy, and He's doing such a good job. Because sometimes I'm thinking of an idea, or sometimes I'm in need of something, and it's like, in the weirdest ways, Hashem puts it in front of me. And this is exactly what happened this week. Okay, so I'm going to go into the Pesach Seder, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So it says, we say in the Seder night, when you read the Hagada, listen to these words. Afilu kulanu hachamim, kulanu nevonim, and then it says, etc. Mitzvah alenu lesaper b'yetziat Mitzrayim. So basically the Haggadah reads like this. When we get to the part of Magid, which is the part that we're supposed to talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt, and we're really, as we said in the shiur last week, the most important part of the Seder night is the talking about Yetziat Mitzrayim. That's the most important part of the Seder night. Talk about the miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has done for us. And I'll add on to that. It's more than just Yetziat Mitzrayim. You don't have what to talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim. You're sitting around with a bunch of teenagers that don't know, they're not really interested in, the sea split, and they're hearing the same story for the 50,000th time. Let me tell you something. Those same miracles are happening on a daily basis. You talk about today, that's Yetziat Mitzrayim. Talk about anti-Semitism. Talk about all the hate that we see around us. And on top of that, all the nisim and niflot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing for Am Yisrael. Within all of that. That's another Yetziat Mitzrayim. That's what we're supposed to talk about. We're talking about how we are different and how HaKadosh Baruch Hu has kept us alive within 70 wolves. Literally, the entire world wants to attack us, and we're still here. Talk about it. Right? Iran sends all these missiles, over 300 missiles. It's like, if you think for a second that we had anything to do with that, you're crazy. Because they know it. It was miracle of all miracles, right? So we're supposed to do Yetziat Mitzrayim. Good. Now, question comes like this. The Haggadah says, even if we were all chachamim, even if we're all wise and geniuses, still we would have a mitzvah to talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim. Now, I've read this how many times? I don't know. A lot. Every Pesach, we read it. But this is one of those questions that you constantly are reading in the Haggadah, but you don't hit the question until the Zera Shimshon comes and gives you such a simple question that everyone should have thought about. When I'll tell you this question, you'll be like, why didn't I think of that? When I heard the question, I was like, why didn't I think of that? Zera Shimshon says, what does it mean? Even if we were all chachamim, even if we were all that, we still would be obligated to talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim. What? Why would I have a question? This basically statement is basically saying, don't think that if you were a chacham and you were a genius, you wouldn't be obligated to talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim. You know why? Because even if you were, you'd still be obligated to talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim. Why would I think I shouldn't talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim? Why would I want to think that my wisdom would take away my obligation, cancel out the obligation of talking about Yetziat Mitzrayim? It's like the way the statement is put in the Haggadah doesn't make kind of like, it's like we're reading it, we're like, and you know what? Even if you were the greatest chacham, you would still have to read these stories. I didn't question it. I would have read it anyway. I don't know why anyone would think that if I'm already a chacham, I'm not obligated. It's as if to say, okay, you're a big chacham. You already know. You don't have to do stories of Yetziat Mitzrayim. You've what's the word I'm looking for? No, you're exempt. You're exempt. Let's go. What is this?
That's why I was.
You're exempt.
I have a question. So you know how obviously in today's world and also in like a Persian culture, when you think of Yetziat Mitzrayim, you say, oh, it's like a story. Like, who knows if it really happened? Like, it's a story. Okay, we have to say it and we have to keep Passover and in today's day and age, like people think of all the things that you've accomplished and like a human mind and how much more advanced it is in today's day. So that's probably what it's saying. It's saying like, isn't it saying like? So
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, no. I kind of went into it in the beginning already. If you heard my introduction to it, So that's what we're going to go into. And then the Haggadah tops it off by telling us, "V'chol hamarbe b'yitziat Mitzrayim harezeh meshubach." And not only that, not only would you be obligated, even more so, whoever talks more and says more of the stories of Yetziat Mitzrayim, harezeh meshubach, is more praiseworthy. So why? Why would I think that I'm not obligated? Why would I think that somehow someone that is too smart or too much of a chacham is exempt from this mitzvah, right? So here's where it happened, okay? I was doing Gemara Sanhedrin, Huf Daled, page 104. And I come to a story in the Gemara that happened. And I read this story and I'm like, what does this story even mean? Right? Why is this even here? And then it answers some of the questions in the Zera Shimshon. Okay, look. So the Zera Shimshon says, the story is, Huf Daled Amud Aleph in Gemara Sanhedrin says, there were two Jews that were taken captive. There was this guy who captured two Badbach Jews and took them as his own captive, and he was traveling from one city to another to go and sell them in the black market as slaves. These guys were stuck, right? And they're going with his caravan. And as these two Jewish guys were sitting together in this, I don't know, a cage or whatever it was, and this captor is riding his camel. He's listening to these two Jews talking to each other, and they're conversing. And here's one Jew saying to the other Jew, hey, you see up ahead, there's a camel that's blind in one eye. Isn't that interesting? He goes, yeah, I noticed also up ahead, there's a camel that is blind in one eye. This guy looks ahead, barely sees like a small dot of another camel. What? What are you talking about? Up ahead, there's a camel that's blind in one eye. What? And he keeps listening. And they go, and the other one goes, and it's carrying a jug of wine on one side and a jug of oil on the other side. On the left side, it's carrying wine. On the right side, it's oil. And like, all right, these guys are just pulling my leg. And then the third thing he says, and one of the guys that's leading that camel up ahead is a Jew, and the other guy's a non-Jew. There's two guys leading. Now there's no camel. You can't see anything. It's like, so this guy just stops the camera and goes, all right, what gives? What are you guys talking about? What are you trying to drive me crazy? They go, what do you mean? He goes, what camel, what blind in one eye? How could you possibly know there's a camel up ahead? Can you just shut up? They go, no, that's how it is. We're not lying. This is a fact. What we're telling you is a fact. There's a camel up ahead, blind in one eye, carrying wine in one side, oil on the other side, and it's being led by a Jew and a non-Jew. He goes, all right, fine. I'm going to go catch up to whatever camel is up ahead, and if you guys are wrong, I'm just going to kill you. I'm not even going to sell you. They go, fine. So he starts riding his camel as fast as possible. He's approaching the other camel, and he gets up to the camel, and he sees Vavela, the camel is really blind in one eye. And then he looks, he's got two pouches on each side, and one of them actually is wine, the other one is oil. And he kind of does a little research, and he sees, one guy is a Jew, and the other guy, there are two partners, one Jew and one non-Jew. He stops the caravan. The Gemara says he stops the caravan and goes, you guys are such great chachamim, you're unbelievable. You forget you being slaves. I should be your slave. He frees them. He comes and sits and has a meal with them and feeds them. Then he asks them, can you please tell me, how did you know? How did you know that this is what was going on? They go, listen, it's quite simple, really. When you get really smart, you have to have an English accent. Quite simple, really. Says, we knew that he's blind in one eye because we were paying attention to when we were going on the road, there's grass on each side. And we noticed the fresh cut grass is only on one side of the road. And on the other side, it's not. So we figured the camel can only see out of one eye, so he's only eating grass from one side of the road. Yo, seriously? You go, and so how about the oil and the wine? He goes, okay, so oil is heavier. It doesn't sink into the sand. Wine sinks and leaves some color. So we looked at, on one side, there was liquid that had dripped, but it was still staying on the sand. That's oil. It leaves a big mark. The other one was just a little bit wet, but it was just color. That was wine. So that's how we knew that one side is carrying oil, the other side was carrying wine. Yo, wow. Okay. How about the Jew and the non-Jew? Come on, seriously. So this is the olden days. I don't think today, I don't know if it's applicable today, but excuse me, but the Gemara talks about everything very openly, all right? So those days, people, men, not today, obviously, right? Those days when men needed to go number one, right? It was like, they needed to go. So you go. You know, it wasn't like, oh, where's the bathroom? You know, it's like going to a gas station. There is none, you know? So there's strict halachot that pertain to these things. And it says, the halacha says that a Jew has to go find a corner, right? Just like go in the middle of the street where everybody's walking, go find a corner. So he says that's how we knew, because we saw that as we were going, there were times that we saw there was, urine on the side of the road. And then there was a few feet ahead, or let's say, right in the middle of the road. So we realized that one of them is a Torah Jew that listens to the Torah and knows the halachot. The other one must be a non-Jew because they don't have these rules. They don't have these laws. It doesn't apply to them.
How do they know it's for humans and not from a camel?
How do they know that it's from humans, not from a camel? I don't know. The whole story by itself is a very cryptic. It's not a mashal, but the Gemara always has these stories just out of nowhere, right? And they could be a story that actually did happen, but they're very, very metaphorical also. What's with the wine, and then the oil, and then the camel, and then one eye. So these things, there's Rav Eliyahu Dessler has a whole sefer. He opens up all these stories as to what they actually mean behind all the stories of the Gemara, because the Gemara is not a storybook. It's a book of philosophy and halacha. So he goes into it and goes, why did this Gemara bring this story exactly here? Why? So after this, he goes, you guys are geniuses. You're unbelievable. You cannot be slaves. I'll be your slave. Right? The Gemara, one of the reasons the Gemara brings this story is to bring out the fact that Jews intrinsically are chachamim. We're smart. We're well-to-do. We know how to figure things out. I mean, it's not a secret today, right? I'm not saying we're the smartest people in the world, but we have a way of figuring things out. That's why we have the Gemara. The Gemara sharpens our mind, and we're always looking for solutions. Always. There's no for an answer. There's no impossibilities. We're always looking for solutions. For instance, look at the drip irrigation. I mean, you guys know about the drip irrigation technology in Israel. Basically, it's like instead of having sprinklers water your trees, there's literally a pipe with a hole in it, and it just drips. It saves tons of water, and it's actually healthier for trees. Right? Because water's not wasted. The tree doesn't have extra water, but it's getting rations slowly. And they've literally saved the world with this technology of drip irrigation. How? Because now they introduced it in Africa, and there's farmers in Africa, there's literal water, but Baruch Hashem, now they have like lands and lands of irrigated land. India also got the technology from Israel, Baruch Hashem. Many places. Now we have it here in California. Where do you think California's drip irrigation came from? It's an Israeli idea, right? Remember during the drought, the government was installing drip irrigation for all the homes. We got it, right? It's all an Israeli idea. You literally open the faucet and it's just dripping water for like 5 minutes. 5 minutes of a sprinkler compared to 5 minutes of dripping water. How much more water are you saving? It's incredible, right? So we have Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us this gift that we are thinkers. We're smart. We're capable. Therefore, like she was saying, I hope this is what she was saying, that You would have thought to say, Zera Shimshon says, you would have thought to say, listen, if we were seriously chachamim and greats and geniuses, we didn't need God's help. We could have gotten out of Egypt ourselves. We would have been able to just take over Egypt, I don't know, install flying planes, I don't know, and fly all of Am Yisrael out, and we're out of Egypt to go to Eretz Yisrael, right? The Zera Shimshon says, the Hagada is telling you, don't think that way. Even if you were the greatest geniuses that has ever walked on planet Earth, you would not have gotten out. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu had said, you're going to be here as long as I say so. I will take you out personally. You're not getting out. Therefore, the Haggadah says, you might be thinking to yourself, what chars they were slaves for 210 years. Why did you do that? Why did you do it? Just say no, I'm not doing it. Go and riot in the streets and go, no more slavery. I'm going California. I don't know, whatever it is that you're gonna walk around with. And then go behind Paro's palace. Paro, you must go. Paro. And then he would break under the pressure. No. The Haggadah is saying, in every generation, listen to this. We say this every single year. We've been saying the Haggadah for over 2,500 years. And in every generation, there is a generation that says, you know why we had the slavery? Because they were, you know why we don't mix meat and milk together? Because they didn't know that it's not healthy. You know why we do netilat yadayim? Because they didn't have soap those days. In every generation, you have those that think they know better than everybody else. Everybody else. Everyone in the past were idiots, and you are the smartest of the bunch, sitting at the table thinking to yourself, seriously? I have to watch 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and if I don't, something bad happens. Like those letzans, clowns that wanna, Roshan Fek. They're
That's the word.
You guys think my Meturgaman is a fake? She's a Meturgaman in multiple languages. English, Hebrew, Farsi. She doesn't just help me with the
Spanish, Hebrew also.
Roshan Fek, which means what? Open-minded. Enlightened. Harf Nazan. Let her do her job. We're enlightened. We're the new generation of brilliance. And unfortunately, that has always, in every generation, that has been our doom. That is the prime reason that people have, Jews that have no tradition, no connection to Judaism anymore, half of it comes from this. I made my money. I made my inventions. I made my company. Because my father couldn't, because they worked in rugs, washing rugs. I have a car company, because I'm smarter, I am better. The Haggadah is not just talking to us about the Haggadah and in the Exodus. The Haggadah says, Bechol dor vador, in every generation, sit down and think. Without HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you would be in nothing. No matter how smart you were, sit down and think to yourself, even if I was the greatest chacham in the world, I would still be a slave if it wasn't for Hashem. Internalize that. Really think about that idea, because that's true freedom. The moment you become shackled to your own gava, to your own arrogance of thinking, kochi ve'otzem yadi, it's my strength. I did it. It's my power. Who's gonna mess with me? Lo aleinu, we'll see a bunch of barbarians that don't even know how to hold a gun straight cause havoc for Am Yisrael like they did on October 7th. The greatest air force and the greatest army and the greatest intelligence, and what happened? They're still trying to figure out what? The guy with a fan and a balloon came in a bunch of Toyota pickup trucks and seriously.
They think it's a conspiracy too.
Right? It's so bad that people think it's a conspiracy.
It's like
No way Israel didn't know. They're so intelligent that they want you to think they didn't know, but they didn't know. Why? Because they're still thinking, I'm too smart for this. We're definitely too smart for this. I am one to admit, I was one myself the week before it happened. Chas v'shalom, I wasn't saying we're great and we're too good, but the week before it happened, I was talking to somebody. I'm like, yeah, I saw this video on Israeli intelligence on how the soldiers in the intelligence units, they can read faces from afar. They can see someone and they can tell from afar if that person's going to be a danger or not. They're incredible. Like nothing could go under their nose, under the radar. And then, how do you explain that? How do you explain that? So the Hagada is saying, don't try to. Just understand, HaKadosh Baruch Hu rules the world, and more than anything else, rules you, Am Yisrael. So even if you're the greatest Chacham, the richest, the most powerful, once you sit down at the Haggadah table, like everybody else, eat unsalted, unleavened bread, like a poor person. Lehem oni. And remember, you're nothing. You were a nothing. You were a slave. The only reason you have the option of in 7 days having pizza is because Hashem took you out. Or else you would be nothing till very day. What do we say in the Haggadah? We say, and if HaKadosh Baruch Hu had not taken us out from Egypt, we would still be slaves in Egypt today. What is that telling us? Afilu kulanu hachamim, kulanu nevonim. Even if we were all geniuses and hachamim, we still have the mitzvah of talking about Yetziat Mitzrayim. Don't take yourself out of the pool. Don't take yourself out of the group thinking to yourself, why should I read this? We're a bunch of idiots that got stuck for 210 years building pyramids. Please. You're millions of pyramid movers. You know how strong you have to be? They're still trying to figure out how they move those stones. Get together and kill out all of Egypt and come out. Obviously, you were too dumb. Chas v'shalom. What the Haggadah is telling us that in every generation, there's going to be those people. In every generation, there's going to be those people that are enlightened, thinkers, philosophers, mathematicians that think to themselves, oh, look at where we've come. Look at where we are. It's no longer about, one time this person came and gave a speech. Doctor, very respected professor, doctor from some university in Eretz Israel. And he came and he's like, we have figured out that the tzarat that the Torah talks about, which the Torah says is a spiritual disease that a person would get in times of the Beit HaMikdash and before, was actually mold and mildew. What do you know? They didn't have soap. They didn't have hand sanitizers. And so they had mildew and mold and they were getting sick and no one knew how to treat them. Right.
Anyway. Leprosy was like...
No. That's because the tzarat also comes on homes. The Torah says tzarat would come on the homes, on the walls. So he was saying on the walls it was just mildew, it was just mold, and they were destroying their houses because all you needed was bleach. Please, right? How? So just understand, right? How do you bring yourself to explain something from the Torah when you have no right in trying to understand because you've never even fully understood the Torah? You're in your scientific world. You're smart. You're brilliant. Fine. You're gonna come and try to. So all the chachamim before you, all the philosophers before you, everybody was stupid, but you came along and you just figured it out. Chazaku baruch. All along it was mold, and God didn't even know it. It's like wow. Every generation we have that. Every generation. Pesach is the grounder. Pesach, in this sense, for Am Yisrael, is what grounds us. Pesach says, philosopher, doctor, surgeon, businessman, philanthropist, millionaire, come, sit down. Sit down 1 second. Have a little wine. Have a little unleavened, tasteless bread. For you to just understand, you're just a rich slave. If it wasn't because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you wouldn't even be here now. I think that, for me, personally, such a beautiful way of looking at Pesach. It mamash is because we're living it. We're living it. Every moment we kind of like, it kind of escapes us. Where we don't see how we're reacting to the world. We kind of have to take a step back and think to ourselves like, whoa, okay, no matter how successful we are, how well we're doing, let's not forget where we came from. Let's not forget where we came from. David HaMelech in the Tehillim, why is it so powerful? Because in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he never forgot that he was a shepherd. David HaMelech. David HaMelech, do you have to understand who we're talking about? His entire life, he saw himself as a shepherd. Ki chasid ve'ani ani. He says, I'm a chasid and I'm a poor man, ani. He was a melech. He's sitting on his throne, writing the Tehillim and saying he's an ani. Are you an ani? You're literally ruling the world of the time. You're a poor person, but David HaMelech had the right idea. Hey, what king? What throne? What? It's all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If it wasn't because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what throne? What money? What rule? I have nothing. I am a nobody. I was a shepherd. I was despised by my own family. I was literally ostracized by my family and my community to be in the wild with the beasts and the sheep and go, okay, go over there, go. David HaMelech had the right idea. So if a king as powerful as David HaMelech recognized, let's just understand who David HaMelech was. A father of Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest man who ever lived. Okay, that's who came from David HaMelech. No joke. If David HaMelech in his prime didn't take credit for his greatness, who are we? Who am I? Who am I to sit and really think like, oh, really? It just boils, that part of me was ranting, by the way. Boils my blood when somebody comes up and goes, really? We have to do it like this, or like if I wash my hands like this, and like what do you know? What do you know? Come on. You sound so unintelligent because you're literally looking at millions of Jews all over the world and you're saying, they're all stupid and I figured it out. I just figured it out. I figured it out. You know, all of it, you just figured it out. There was this guy who posted something on Instagram or something like that about like, oh, I don't even remember. You know why Jews don't eat meat and milk together? Because the Torah says, there's a pasuk twice repeated in the Torah, you shall not cook the kid in its mother's milk. And he went on saying some stupidity, mamash stupidity. So someone had already commented. I usually don't comment on these things. I never do. I could care less, right? Someone had already commented, like, by the way, the Torah says this 3 times, you idiot, not twice. Okay? So already you don't know what the heck you're talking about. Like, you don't even know how many times this mitzvah is repeated in the Torah. And literally, this is one of the simplest things. Everybody knows the Torah repeats 3 times, do not cook a kid in its mother's milk. You can search that on ChatGPT and it'll tell you. This idiot was like twice. That's how people sound when they think they know why Judaism does certain things. And we are that person. We are, because sometimes we let life get ahead of us. Like, we're doing well, Baruch Hashem, things are going okay, so it's easy. So Pesach is the night we come and sit down and really internalize Baruch Hashem, that no, even if we are doing great, still not there. Chill, relax. Because if it wasn't for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not in doing, we would still be slaves in Egypt. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.